Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to this special episode of Disrupting the Narrative. This is a 3-part episode special that we're going to be having to get us ready for the elections that are coming up soon. With us, we have Omar Kurdi, the president of the Arab Americans of Cleveland.
Thank you, Faten. We are excited to be collaborating on this 3-episode special that will be focused on the very exciting municipal elections in the city of Cleveland this November. Today's episode is going to be focused on city government, few housekeeping items. AAC and CARE are 501c3 organizations, so nothing that we discuss today, none of the guests that we have, nothing counts as an endorsement. So as organizations, we cannot endorse candidates. So our guests today are here in their official capacities. With us today is Mr. Charles Slife, Councilman from Cleveland Ward 17, and Yusef Naser, Executive Assistant for Ward 15's Councilwoman Jenny Spencer.
All right, welcome. Can you tell us a little bit about the wards that you guys cover?
You first, go ahead.
So, assalamu alaikum. My name is Yusef Naser. A lot of people know me as Joe too, so that's fine. I work in the Ward 15 Council office at Cleveland City Council. Ward 15 encompasses the Edgewater, Detroit Shoreway, and Cadell neighborhoods roughly. It doesn't include all of Cadell, but a big chunk of it. We also have small parts of the Stockyards and Ohio City areas. So it's kind of the northwestern part of Cleveland along the border with Lakewood at West 117th.
And thanks for having me, first of all. And salam. I used to dabble in Urdu, so I would say adab also. But I represent Ward 17, which is the far western ward in the city. I generally describe it as everything west of the Red Line Rapid Tracks. So sort of Cam's Corners, Rock River Drive, going down towards the airport. Al Omri Mosque is included in that area. And basically, I'm a part of Cleveland that everyone forgets is still Cleveland because it's so far west. But proud to be, on City Council, representing a great Cleveland neighborhood, and really appreciative of you for having me here today.
Great, thank you. You have a huge Muslim community in your ward.
Yeah, one thing that it's hard to quantify specifically because unlike like race and ethnicity and the census, like they don't ask specific questions about religion, but just it's very obvious from anyone that has eyes that the presence and really the growth we have in the last couple years, the growth of Al Omri Mosque. And kind of a victim of their own success, their parking lot keeps getting smaller because they've added on to the Al Hassan School with a community center and a gym, and just a lot of people are moving into that specific part of West Park to be within walking distance of it. So it comes with challenges of trying to figure out where to put cars, during Ramadan. But it's a good challenge to have, and it's actually been interesting when they expanded maybe about a decade ago starting, and to properly orient the prayer hall towards Mecca became a zoning challenge because there's rules about how buildings have to interface with the street frontage, and this building needed to be slightly pivoted. So we've been working through ways to allow the community to expand, and really happy to be supportive of them in doing so.
Great, thank you for all your work, to both of you. So I'm just going to dive right in for the first question. It's a basic question, but some people honestly don't know, and I think people can use a refresher. What is your role in city government? And can you tell us about like what your role is? What is your day-to-day like?
I'll kick it off. So yeah, there's Cleveland City Council currently has 17 members. The way that the number of members works, it's set by population. So because of a minor population loss, make sure in 2030 everyone fills out the census because it's based on the census. We are required to cut down to 15 members. So I am running again to remain in the body. But city council, I say I break the day-to-day job sort of into 3 buckets. There's the legislative stuff. really the most important, the crux of the job. We're the legislative branch of government. Like we make the laws, the mayor kind of administers the laws, and then we have a municipal court that adjudicates on the laws, just like the national government, but at a more local level. So that's city council passing laws on any number of things. A lot of them really do boil back down to the budget. We have control over the $1.2 billion city budget in its totality and how it's spent. And anytime the mayor and his team want to spend money at or above $50,000, they have to come to council and ask for permission, essentially. So that can be really, really big things, like coming up with programs for people facing eviction to be guaranteed right to have an attorney present in that. Smaller things that are still really important, but maybe less compelling, like the airport needs to buy a new jet bridge, The other components of the job that I note are one, sort of being an advocate for the area you represent, trying to guide resources to make sure that streets are getting resurfaced, parks are being redone, businesses are able to grow, people are able to be connected with programs. And then the final bucket, and really where I suspect a lot of Joe's day-to-day work is constituent services. So council, we're not the people that are going to come repave your street or fill the pothole or plow it or trim the tree or collect your garbage directly. But a lot of people, when they have a question or, the garbage can broke and they need a new one, they'll call council, and council's in a easy position to kind of connect them with that city service, even though we don't provide it directly.
Wow. So I bet your day is very interesting. Probably varies from day to day.
Tasks as assigned. And, there's days where I'm in a suit and I'm downtown all day. And then there's days where I'm wearing my Superman shirt because the woman who plays Hawkgirl in the new movies from Ward 17. So I wanted to give a little shout out. Isabella Merced. It's as the every day is different. The current challenge I'm actually having right now, there's a big water main break on Lorraine Avenue. And there is traffic being routed into local residential streets that can't handle this much traffic. And at the same time, sadly, a longtime resident is home on hospice. So people are trying to come and visit during all this. So trying to coordinate all these things so that people can still get to Fairview Hospital, but people can come and see a neighbor, and ambulances can still get through. It's little things like that you sort of don't know what the day is going to bring you.
Oh, wow. That's so interesting. Yusef, what is your role in city government?
Yeah, so my official title is Executive Assistant to Councilmember Jenny Spencer. As Councilman Slife mentioned, there's currently 17 council members, and each of the 17 council members has what's called an EA, or an Executive Assistant. I do think it is a bit of a misleading title. Typically when people hear assistant, they think of kind of strictly administrative or like secretary-esque tasks. But really the EA role, I think, is unique to in every individual council office. It's really at the discretion of the council member as to what kind of tasks they want their EA to be working on and assisting with. I guess I would say that in general, I think almost a better title would be like office manager. Really, I'm kind of just the right hand to the council member, and I assist her in whatever is needed. A lot of that is constituent management, so I do spend a significant amount of time intaking, whether it's calls or emails, or we have a submission form on the council website that constituents will use to get in contact with our office. And constituents can be residents that live in the area. It could be a business owner in your ward. It could be, a leader of a religious institution. It's pretty much, anybody that lives and or works in the district that you represent. And so, as Councilman Slife mentioned, they will reach out to the office, oftentimes seeking assistance with some sort of particular issue, whether it's kind of a basic level city service issue like a pothole, or a larger kind of more abstract concern like there's a lot of crime in this particular section of the ward, what can you do to help, or it might be a developer reaching out to ask about a particular property in the ward, and seeking support from the council members. So I do a lot of that and a little bit of everything else. I will also, the council member will dispatch me to particular meetings or locations to represent her if she's unable to attend a given meeting. I will also do things like event planning for the office. So, for example, We do 2 summer community movie nights in the ward, which are typically a pretty big hit in the neighborhood. And I'm typically the person that organizes and coordinates all of the logistics for that, bringing the company out to put the big screen up and buying the movie rights and, whether we want to have food there or that sort of thing. So I do a little bit of event planning too. So, really my role is just kind of, a support role and, also as a representative of the office, I, help to fill in when, the council member cannot, be at a particular event or function. But I just kind of do a little bit of everything and help, manage and represent the office in whatever capacity is needed.
Mashallah, that's a lot of different things.
Yes.
So a lot of constituents, when they call Councilwoman Jenny Spencer, you answer the calls.
Yeah.
I used to intern at a congressman's office, and I used to pick up the calls and take the intakes, and I would have the most interesting phone calls. And I'd be like, I don't even know why they're calling the congressman for this. But and then I'd have my regulars, right? And they'd call all the time and want help with like spaceships and whatnot. It was so interesting. So I bet you have a lot of interesting calls too.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
Thank you for sharing what you shared. I do want to make a few things I feel for some people that might not be aware. But right now, Cleveland has something really cool. It's called the 311 that you could go and submit your constituent issues there. If you see something, you can report it on 311. So I'm sure that's been something that you have utilized in your roles. And before I jump into this question, I think one thing, and maybe Councilman Slife, you could answer my next question, but also mention first, some people don't know that also being a councilman, that you can actually hold another job, or like there's a misconception, misunderstanding, like is being a councilman in the city of Cleveland a full-time job or a part-time job? Can you hold another job? I want to like answer this question before we...
Sure. So under like state of Ohio public retirement systems, we receive full-time benefits.
Okay.
However, being an elected official, from a strictly legal standpoint, like as a councilman, I am required to attend Monday night council meetings. On top of that, there's community meetings, there's engaging with residents, there's meeting with business owners, there's knocking on doors. Like there's plenty to keep you busy over a 40-hour plus period. So I kind of equate it down to the honor system. Like if there's a universe where I go to Monday night meetings and I get paid twice a month and that's all I'm doing, I'm kind of phoning it in. I don't think that that's the amount of time that it takes to effectively do the job. However, to the other side of your question, there aren't limitations that prevent me from, having some other employment. So for a number of years, I was kind of doing some side consulting, like editing documents and stuff like that. The only thing that I can't do is I can't do anything that would create an ethical conflict with my role. So if say that I, had some financial relationship with a nonprofit, I can't be voting on legislation that's going to help that nonprofit and thereby indirectly help myself. So it is the thing that I describe about the job, and I have little kids, so I'm sort of constantly busy, but it's very flexible. I make my own schedule. I can sort of set my boundaries. There's crazy hours, but as opposed to my wife who works in a hospital, like if one day we're all getting ready for work and this has happened, like my child just throws up across the room and I'm like, okay, I guess I'm not going to, I guess I'm working from home today because I have that flexibility. Unlike my wife who works in a hospital and there's an expectation she has to see patients, she has to find coverage. So I tell people public service is not something to get into for the convenience, but it's there are some, there are some perks, and the ability to control your own schedule, I think, is one of them, especially when you have little kids.
A great segue to our next question, which is a question for you both, which is how did you get into public service? And we can,
I can start.
Joe, Yusef, Habibi, whatever you want.
I can start. So I got my bachelor's degree in political science from the College of Worcester. I graduated class of 2021. I was born and raised in Cleveland. So upon graduation, I returned home, and I immediately just kind of started looking for opportunities in the political field generally. My degree was focused actually on international relations, so I'm kind of doing the opposite of that now, where I'm like very kind of like hyper-localized politics. Yeah, you know, after graduating in 2021, I just returned to Cleveland and started looking at different opportunities, and I ended up working on a political campaign. And through that campaign, that kind of took me, you know, I graduated in May, so the first couple of months of summer and then all the way into fall to November, that kept me pretty, you know, occupied. Campaigns are always pretty hectic. So through that campaign, I was able to make different connections with various like political figures and, you know, institutions across the city of Cleveland. And it was actually through that campaign that I got to meet Councilmember Spencer, who, you know, later I ended up discussing, you know, different opportunities with, and, you know, a little over 3 years later, I'm still working in her office now.
So we touched a little bit on like what your day-to-day looks like and a little bit about challenges that you face. Can you dig a little bit deeper on any challenges that you faced as a council member, and how did you overcome them? Like what did you have to do?
Sure. I'll say a challenge that is just common across the entire city is we don't have enough money for all the things we need to do. And you can kind of break that down a number of ways. Like, we used to be a city of nearly 1 million people, so we have a lot of infrastructure. But even if we didn't have this level of infrastructure, that deferred maintenance, I think sometimes the levels of poverty in Cleveland are so high that I think sometimes we almost get normalized to like extreme levels of poverty. Nearly all of Cleveland is low income to some aspect. And just the amount of services people need, the amount of investment people that it takes to kind of break cycles of poverty, to bring people, to connect them to jobs and everything is really daunting. And unfortunately, like the city of Cleveland has to have by law a balanced budget. So, you know, and I hear people often say like a budget's a moral document. And if you ask me what my morals are, I'm not going to start talking about our need for like internal audit and, you know, having like, you know, HR and like that's not what we talk about when we talk about morality, but like that stuff's important for running a government and institution. So when you like, it's I think it understandably frustrates people that they look around and they see all of this need and wonder, why isn't the city addressing this, while the city is trying to address a lot of those things while also having to pave roads and have ambulances and, you know, pick up garbage and do all of these things. So it becomes a budgetary conversation, which is probably more boring than you guys want to get into. But it is a challenge. And I think my goal is I want people to feel that they can move into a Cleveland neighborhood, that they can have a high quality of life, that they're going to feel safe, that they have a sense of community and whichever way they're going to define it. And I think that the part of town I represent does have a lot of that going for it. We're pushing hard to make sure that there's, you know, options across all parts of Cleveland where people can feel like they can live in a safe and welcoming community.
Yeah, that does sound fair. I mean, I understand as a nonprofit, there are so many needs and not enough funds to, you know, meet those needs. But I can imagine at the city level, it's surprising that it's similar issues, because you think the city has money.
Right.
I mean, is the problem, I don't know if you can answer this, is the problem that there are not enough funds, or the way that the budget is made doesn't meet all the needs that the community needs?
Probably yes and more. I mean, so I had mentioned earlier this budget's about $1.3 billion. A lot of that is like the airport and the water department, and those kind of function as like quasi businesses where like your tax dollars aren't supporting the water department, your water bills supporting the water department. When you come down to like what money is just open to be used for anything, we call that the general fund. About 50% of the general fund comes down to like police, fire, EMS, you know, and then that's where we start talking about like the building and housing department is a general fund department, and That's how we pay for like city council, the mayor's office, and the Department of Aging. We do get different outside grants for things like health and aging programs and whatnot, but the way the city of Cleveland makes money generally is from income tax. Like people working in Cleveland pay 2.5% of their income to the city, and that's about 2/3 of what pays for the general fund. So there's this, quite honestly, this tricky dichotomy where we're trying to help people very often in lower income neighborhoods, but the way that we get money to do that is for people who make a lot of money working in places like downtown or University Circle. So it's where there's this kind of like dual incentive to like figure out how to maximize your revenue, but then also use that revenue in places where it's needed the most. So
yeah, that's interesting. I was just at the juvenile detention center yesterday, and I was just like shocked that, I mean, I know this is city government, but Cuyahoga County is like the top in the whole country for having like children being like tried as adults. And I was talking to one of the administrators and I said, well, what's the solution? And she was telling me in another state, I guess some leader over there decided to use a ton of money to pour into recreation centers, like things for youth. And they saw a complete decline on how many youth were in detention centers. So I guess maybe, I mean, I guess it's a tough decision to make where to put the money. I guess there's a lot of red tape on things, but it's nice to see when money is used to solve these types of problems that, regular average people are suffering from.
Right. So a current council member who is outgoing, Councilman McCormick, will note, I can't remember the exact year, but there was, I think, money during the Obama years where we were able to just drastically increase the summer youth employment program, and that was one of the years statistically in a time frame that there was lower juvenile crime because kids are occupied, and it's not. I would say it's not that we're doing nothing by any means. Like we have opened the pool hours to be longer than they had been in years past. There are recreational programs like late night basketball at the rec. Like we have things, but it is. We often find that we are overstretched because of the amount of facilities we have. And then we're also trying to find ways to partner with, whether it's the county or outside agencies or nonprofits or things, to kind of come in and join us in those endeavors. Because I mean, the answer is like somewhat obvious, but I don't want to deflect by saying it just comes down to money and we don't have it. But we're trying to figure out how to do any number of things at once. But I have heard, I think it was Baltimore, that has very successful in their juvenile crime. And ours has gone down too, but I think we'd all like to see it go down more.
Right, yeah, exactly.
Yusef.
Yusef, what challenges have you faced?
I'm going to actually divert a little bit because I want you to think of this question from also like a different angle. You're an Arab American, you're a Palestinian American, you're a Muslim, so that puts you in like multiple different categories of what a minority is. So how do you think that identity like shaped or challenged your role in city government?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think that, having come from a family with like an immigrant parent, I think there is a common feeling amongst a lot of people whose parents were immigrants of, this feeling of like trying to come to the United States and trying to be successful in the United States and make a living for yourself. And, one thing that my father, who is Palestinian, who immigrated to the United States when he was 17, one thing he instilled in me was this kind of idea of like he wanted my life to be better than his, and that like my kid's life should be better than mine, and so on. And so, in terms of the career that I've had at City Hall and the work that I've done, I think that I have been able to kind of, do well in school and get my college degree and get a career and that sort of thing. But certainly in terms of like being at City Hall and being an Arab American and being a Muslim, you certainly are in the minority. I think that for a time there were two of us. I think now there's only, I'm the only like Arab American currently working at City Council. I believe I'm the only Muslim currently working at City Council. I'm not the first one to be there, but the only one currently. And, unfortunately, just being honest about the, past 20 so years of American history, there has been a lot of, unfortunately, negative rhetoric and just kind of hate towards the Arab American community and towards the Muslim community. I think it, unfortunately, it kind of entered into mainstream American society in a way, where people don't really understand a whole lot about the Middle East. People don't really understand a whole lot about Islam. And, it's kind of like they say, like people tend to fear things they don't understand or, things that they're not familiar with or that are like foreign to them. And so that certainly has, impacted my time working at City Hall. I mean, there have been instances where, even, up to the level of council members have made like Islamophobic comments, or have made, comments that are, discriminatory towards the Arab American community. And in particular, given the current tension and the genocide that's taking place in the Middle East, more and more of the Arab American and Muslim communities have wanted to become politically involved and have started to question why things are the way that they are. And unfortunately, we've seen that, there are times when, if there is an increase in involvement or an increase in activism or participation from the Arab American or Muslim communities, that it's met with kind of a backlash. And, we are accused of being radical or aggressive or violent. And I feel like these are stereotypes or like tropes that go back a lot farther than just the past couple of years. These are unfortunately things that have become kind of like stereotypes or like rhetoric that gets repeated about the Arab community or the Muslim community. So certainly I, have experienced occasions working at City Hall where it feels like you are in the minority and that people don't necessarily look fondly upon your community or upon your religious beliefs. And I know that, my experience is not unique. And I also have the benefit of, appearing white passing due to my mom. So I get to avoid a lot of that, which, isn't necessarily a privilege that I'm like happy to have or that like I think I should have, but it's certainly something that I acknowledge and that I benefit from. But I know that my experience is not unique for Muslims who get involved in politics. And I think that unfortunately it has the effect of discouraging a lot of people or feeling like disillusioning people. Oftentimes, it's not uncommon for, people within the community to say it's, politics is all rigged or like they hate us anyway. Like what does our involvement have to do with any of that? But I see, if anything, it's more reason that we need to be involved. It's more reason that we need to be there and we need to be in those spaces. And we need to express our voice and express our concerns and assert ourselves as equal Americans to everyone else.
Absolutely.
And so I think that, while it is frustrating at times where there are feelings of, there's very few of us here. And I always get excited anytime I meet like another like Arab American at City Hall. There's actually in City Hall, there's a lot more than just me. It's just at City Council, there's not many of us right now. But anytime I meet one, like there's guys in the Department of Building and Housing or like other departments, and I always get really excited. But as frustrating as it can be when there are times where you feel like there's not many of us or that, we're for whatever reason looked down upon or ostracized because of who we are, because of our ethnic background, or because of what we believe, that to me is not something that I would say can discourage me away from it. I feel that, personally, I feel very much that if that is the case, then it's more reason we need to be involved. It's more reason that there should be Arab Americans involved in the city government. There should be Arab Americans and Muslims involved in local politics, and we can get organized as a community and participate in politics. And I think that a large part of the reason that we are not always kind of acknowledged or respected as a community is because of a lack of involvement that is due to a variety of historical reasons that I can't necessarily explain or go into full detail in now. But yeah, I guess I would just sum up by saying that it is challenging at times, but again, like I feel that it's incredibly important now more than ever for us to be involved 100%. And for us to be in those spaces.
100%. And I do, before Faten could jump into the other question, I do want to commend you and thank you. I think in the past 2 years, and that's how I got to meet you as a Palestinian, as an Arab who works with a council member. You didn't gatekeep, and I think sometimes we do face certain community members who might come from a minority who do reach a certain position of power and influence, who will get into gatekeeping or being afraid about losing their job or not wanting to discuss some of those scary topics. But when we wanted to have a meeting with council members to discuss a ceasefire resolution, you jumped on it right away and you helped make it happen. So I do want to thank you for that. And I definitely do echo a lot of what you said about there's power in choosing to engage rather than disengage. So thank you.
Thank you. It really makes me so proud to see that a proud Muslim, Palestinian, Arab American is working in city council, and just so I'll be like the mom, the teacher. So proud of you, mashallah. Afwan, I don't even know where we are in this line of questions, but I guess this question is for both of you, because everyone faces internal challenges, and you just kind of discussed with us the internal challenges that you faced. If there was a younger, like you, like a kid that you're seeing that's graduating college and they're studying political science, many of us do. I studied political science too, and it's not like a traditional
pathway. That was my undergrad too.
Like most Arabs and Muslims, we do study political science, but then there's not.
We want to save the world, you know.
Yeah, we want to save the world, but then there's like not a traditional pathway. Then we get easily discouraged because of all those challenges that you discussed.
Yeah.
What are some of the lessons that you've learned along the way that you would tell this newly graduated student, Muslim, Arab American? Same for you. I'm sure that you faced internal challenges as well, maybe different. What would you tell that young person?
So I guess I would say, just to kind of keep it short and sweet, keep your head up and don't take no for an answer. I think that, again, like a lot of the challenges of being kind of a minority and not having like a lot of people who have walked that path before you, you feel like, a lot of people will report something like kind of like feeling imposter syndrome of like, maybe I don't belong here, like maybe I can't do it. I fortunately don't really suffer from that. I believe I can and should be there, and I can and should be a part of it. And I think that's a better mentality to have than to question yourself and question your community and, take kind of things that people say or do to heart and let that control you. I think that applies to Arab Americans in general. And if you're a Muslim American, I would say, take comfort in your faith and take comfort in your belief that, there is a plan, and Allah has things go according to His will, and you will be okay. And I think that's something to like take to heart. But more on the side of like getting involved and like for a kid younger than me, I guess I would say again, like don't let someone discourage you from taking on that role or getting involved because they believe you can't do it. It's not about what they believe, it's about what you can and can't do and what you believe in yourself to be able to do. I think unfortunately it does require probably a little bit more patience and level-headedness than maybe someone who's not Muslim or not Arab American has to display. Because, you know, there are times, like even, you know, talking about taking calls from constituents earlier, I would get calls from constituents saying like things about Palestinians or saying things about Muslim Americans or saying things about Arab Americans, them not knowing that I'm one, and they're like making these complaints about our community or making these complaints about some protest that they saw and yada, 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 not knowing I was probably there. And it's one of those things where, you know, if I react harshly, if I like overreact and become emotional and allow that to dictate my response, then there will be negative consequences. But, you know, being able to keep a level head and not taking everything to heart and understanding that, you know, hatred or discrimination or prejudice that other people display is a reflection of themselves more than it is a reflection of you and your community. Those are all things that, you know, keep in mind and that are important to remember when you are kind of a younger Arab American or a younger Muslim who's interested in getting involved in, you know, politics or any kind of work, to be honest.
Thank you for sharing.
Just as an aside, it's not never that I come into the office and check in with my, you know, office manager and she says, oh, I got a call from someone and they said something racist and I told them that they were racist and I hung up. So there's multiple ways to, you know, take a bite of the apple, I guess. You know, to the question, I've always, I think I'm a generally friendly person, and I've always been interested in kind of engaging with people.
You absolutely
interpersonally and building relationships. I think it took me longer to realize that, like, it's good to be friendly and build relationships just for the sake of being humans with each other. But there's also a certain point where you can begin to kind of leverage those relationships and that trust to make important things happen, not in a misleading, underhanded way, but, you know, I think in the context of this conversation, for example, I am a member of 0 minority groups. And, you know, I think that Cleveland City Hall is not politically conservative, but like little c conservative, slow moving, and historically, like, diversity in Cleveland has been was like a black-white binary. And then at a certain point it became kind of more like there was black-white and acknowledgement that there was a growing Latino, Puerto Rican population in particular, and that became part of the conversation. But my Charlie Slife opinion, I don't think a lot of city hall and city government and institutions has caught up to how absolutely diverse, especially the west side of Cleveland is. And if you look at like a census tract level, the most diverse parts of our entire region really are neighborhoods that are calling your office. And what I learned is in my role, and you know, I represent a neighborhood that has a very large historic Irish Catholic population. I sort of fall into that myself, and I learned that the value of relationships is when I say we are in need of resources and attention to understand that there's different communities in the area that I represent that we want to key in or make sure that we're including or are in need of services or language access or whatever it is. You know, without relationships, maybe there's people who default back to this is me trying to extract resources from areas of need and bring it to an area of non-need, maybe not recognizing the fact that that's maybe a analysis of a part of town frozen in amber from a couple decades ago, not recognizing how things have changed, how things have evolved, how the diverse constituencies I represent. And I think I'm at a point now in many circles where I'm able to get those points to land and people to hear the world as I'm seeing it and experiencing it because I've built the relationships that allow them to hear me. So I think I probably could have figured that out sooner. It's a bit obvious.
Yeah.
No,
I mean, there was a point in history in our country here where Irish Catholics were discriminated against, right? A long time ago. Maybe some of that still remains. I don't know. Maybe it's a lot better. I'm hoping. But one thing about Councilman Slife I want to mention here is that he actually, I just happened to find him at City Hall, and we talked about wanting to do a program for the Muslim youth, and we were able to do the Muslim Youth Leadership Symposium at City Council, and it was such a great program. The kids loved it, and just want to thank you so much for for welcoming us to City Hall and taking the time to. I mean, he was very involved in the whole planning process, and I think the kids just. I think it planted seeds where they felt like they can be a part of this one day. So.
And happy to do it again, eager to do it again, because like to Joe's point, Muslims are underrepresented. I don't know the exact number of how many Muslims live within the city of Cleveland, but I will 100% bet my life on the fact that it's underrepresented at City Hall. And I think to me, if I have the opportunity to let people realize that they have a role here, that this is a place, kind of this is how you can fit into the mold. And I think that in many ways, maybe more ways than people would suspect, like people that work at City Hall are receptive to, can be receptive to learning about different. There's a guy on the 5th floor who's an Indian Muslim who around Christmas every year, he does like a 5th floor feast where like he cooks food, and it's like an event, and everybody loves Naveed for it. Like it's a great way to kind of create community, that simultaneously make sure that we have representation where it's needed, but also create community and conversation where it's not happening.
Absolutely. No, I do want to say that you were one of the first few council members to also agree to having a meeting. Remember, we had coffee sometime about 2 years ago, so I do appreciate that. And I think there's a lot of misconceptions about, and I think I'm going to come from the like Arab American angle. We're not a monolith. We're not a monolith politically. We're not a monolith religiously. And one of the most unfair things that happens to Arab Americans is being blanketed and just shut out because a misconception that a public servant, public official might have about our community. And something that I always say is, and I say this to public officials and I say this to my community members, is like, we just need to get out of the echo chambers. We're not gonna move forward without sharpening the edges and having the tough conversations. And I'm even using sharpening the edges. And this is a term that I learned from a conversation that I had with a Jewish American liberal Zionist. That's not even that, like, we share disagreements on the issue of Palestine. But if I'm not having a conversation with someone that disagrees with me, I'm not going to learn. I'm not going to grow. I'm not going to even strengthen my talking points. So I appreciate what you do. I appreciate what Joe does. And because sometimes and I say this because I know people are going to watch, and I know that this is something that maybe Faten could agree with me on. If not, you could correct me. But we look at people who are involved in the civic process as, sometimes we look at them as they're betraying our cause, or like they're not true to our communities or to our causes just because they're doing things differently. But this is why we're doing this, because there's power, like Yusef said, there's power in engaging in the process. There's power in showing up. I know you're showing up in City Hall with that tie that has a kufi on. It's small, but there's power in that. There's power in showing up with that Superman t-shirt because someone might not like Superman, but there's power in being who you are in a space that sometimes does not want you to be or even exist in your full identity. When I show up to a meeting with a politician or a public official that doesn't even believe that my people should exist, but I'm existing in that moment, in that meeting, when Faten is in DC and she's doing advocacy days, and we're gonna do a whole episode about the power of advocacy and lobbying as Arab Americans and Muslims. But like, there's power in Faten showing up with her hijab, walking the halls of Congress or even City Hall. So I feel like I want to use this as a message. We need to cut our people some slack. Just because you continue to work in city government doesn't mean that you're betraying your people. If anything, you're using that position to amplify the voices of our people. Just because you're a city councilman, sometimes you're not going to vote on legislation that I'm interested in, but you've opened the door for our community to listen to our community. So I'm not going to hold everything you do against you, but I'm going to hold you accountable. And I think that's the relationship that we should have as constituents and public officials, is leave that room to be held accountable and have the tough conversation. I don't know where we are on this paper.
I don't know what happened, but I'll just say I agree with you. I mean, I think the goals are generally the same, right? We want to be able to live in a place of harmony, peace, be able to be afforded the same rights as everyone else.
100%.
Be able to, if we're not in these spaces and nobody sees us, nobody's going to hear us. Nobody's going to know what our needs are, because let's face it, I'm also in a bubble, though I shouldn't be, right?
Yeah.
I'm Palestinian. I'm Muslim. My son goes to a Muslim daycare. Even we're in bubbles, whether we like it or not. It's important that we get out of these bubbles and learn from one another. And again, the goals are the same, but the avenues might be different. As
100%.
long as I think it's important. It's a strategic way too to handle things, is to take different avenues, take
100%.
different paths.
100%. And I feel like why live in a broken home? And I'm saying Cleveland, and even broader than Cleveland, Northeast Ohio. Why live in a broken home when we can live in the most beautiful home in the neighborhood? And it takes all of us to build and have these difficult conversations, and we cannot ignore these difficult conversations. We have our ancestors and the immigrants and the Arab Americans that have come here, they've had to work so hard to create a space for them. And it's on us, and it's on people like Joe who are in city government. It's on people who need to show up to vote. I mean, again, one thing that I'm going to be presenting in the next episode of this is some data. There's about 22% discrepancy of how many Arab Americans were registered to vote and how many actually voted in the 2024 elections. How do we bridge that gap? Why is it important to show up and vote? And this is why we're doing this. A lot of people don't understand the relationship between council and city administration. That's actually something. It was. This is the most Arab podcast ever. Literally, we have halal candy from Palestine.
Yeah.
But I do just one last question before we jump to those. Because we do have Charlie here, is just a little. What is the relationship between council and the city administration? So the mayor's office. And how does that work with legislation? And if I'm a constituent right now, what is the proper channel? Do I go to my council, or do I jump ahead to the mayor's office? Just a little explanation of how that works.
So my biased answer is and maybe someone on the mayor's side wouldn't like this, but it is kind of to call your council member, because the value of the council member is that you're going to see me in the grocery store, you're going to see me at my kid's soccer game, you're going to see me at the park, and you can have a one-on-one relationship, and people just stop and ask me a question of hey, there's a crack in my garbage can, what do I do? And I think the value of coming to council is also the council member can start to do some trend analysis and understand what is happening kind of at a systems level. If it's did we buy bad garbage cans that everyone's garbage can is cracking? And then that's where the questions kind of start, so that council can ask those questions to the mayor's office. The mayor, to his credit, has done a very good job of streamlining the 311 system. So if you have potholes and stuff like that, you can submit it without maybe necessarily having to call my office. And maybe historically, but for a council member intervening, it wasn't going to happen. But I do think that there's still value in engaging, because that allows us to kind of go up to the balcony, look down at the dance floor, and say okay, how's this actually moving? What's actually happening? Because at the end of the day, it's council's the one that approves the budget. So if we need more money to go here or there to meet a localized need, council's the ultimate decider of that, and in the strict form, then it's the mayor's job to kind of see that through, and the council's job to hold whoever the mayor is accountable. I'm
sure you get a lot of phone calls about potholes. I'm just gonna say that I lost
Honestly,
2 tires.
It
When I
feels
first
like
moved
I'm
here.
in like a real life Mario Kart game when
'Cause
I'm
you're like-
driving.
But then you pave the street and people call and say that now they're speeding.
Right.
So you just can't
Right.
win, right?
Funny.
rapid fire.
Yeah.
Okay, you guys ready for this?
Yes. All right.
Who's asking what question? Are you going first?
Do you want me to go first?
Okay, you go first. I'll go second.
Okay. So just
quick.
no need to explain. Just the first answer that comes to mind. I'm gonna start with you, Charlie,
Okay.
and Councilman Slife. I have to be respectful. He's so cool. Like he's so like. I was at a funeral at Al Omari Mosque last week, and I got a text from Charlie. Like I was like, that actually made my day. Like I was driving with my friends. I'm like, that's for me what a public official
I was running
is.
up Rocky River Drive and I saw your license plate. You have a personalized license plate.
I know. It's my last name. If you see me driving, just text me, but don't comment about my driving.
We're gonna find you now.
I know. I'm easy to find. Okay, rapid fire. I'm gonna start with you, Charlie. Shawarma or falafel?
For me would be shawarma. I like falafel, but I feel like it leaves my mouth too dry and I'm always too cheap to buy a drink.
Okay. So shawarma. Yusef.
Shawarma.
Okay.
Oh, am I supposed to answer this?
Yeah, answer
Oh,
it.
falafel.
Okay, it's
Yeah.
shawarma for me.
Oh, I'm the only one. Okay, this whole Browns thing. Brook Park or Cleveland?
Cleveland.
Cleveland.
Absolutely Cleveland.
I really don't know. I haven't.
Okay, this question, I mean, you kind of have it already. Batman or Superman?
I mean, I gotta go with Superman.
Okay.
Batman.
I don't even watch any of those things.
I
Maybe Batman? I don't know.
I just love Batman. I grew up, but I can't wait for the new movie. So let's say that, like Cleveland Pride, we're getting a statue. So, but I'm a Batman guy.
Very cool. Okay, this is very important.
Okay.
This is a
Okay, this is like a hot topic. Is a hot dog a sandwich? Yes or no?
No. I don't think so.
I would say no.
there's a bun and something inside the bun. It's a sandwich.
I'm a no. I think it's it's its own category. It's like a finger food. I feel like.
I think my issue is the shape of the hot dog, but then I guess my question would be, is a meatball sub a sandwich? My logic would then bring me to that.
Well, the
Because
bread
I think
is
it's
wider.
what's inside of it. What's inside? Yeah, and
Yeah.
that's like submarine bread. That's Sorry, we weren't supposed to go into explanations. The answer's no.
I mean, in closing, I just want to say that how appreciative I am for your time and for agreeing to do this.
Yeah.
Like I said, we have 2 more episodes of this podcast that is going to help lead into our candidates forum for the candidates running in Cleveland municipal elections. That's happening August 27th at the Aviator in Cleveland next to the airport. Which is a great opportunity because we're doing it in collaboration with also the Young Latina Network to bring Cleveland voters to the room and encourage them and talk to them about why it's important to be civically engaged, especially in this moment in our country where it's so easy to disengage.
Right.
Like it's so easy to be like, yeah, it's just politics is not my thing, but it's our entire being.
Right.
And especially, I feel like as an Arab American, like I grew up like with my dad watching the news, my grandfather watching the news, like reading the newspaper was our thing to like, so like politics is in our being, and I'm really appreciative for Faten and Care for allowing us to interject in their podcast to do this special 3-episode thing.
It was great. Thanks for being here and doing this with me and coming today. And I think, people always say, I always hear it, politics, that has nothing to do with us. It affects every person. And I would say, I would even maybe argue, especially local politics, right?
I was going to jump in and
Yeah.
say that like national politics gets all the energy and oxygen,
Absolutely.
takes up all the oxygen, but like what happens in local government and especially state government really affects our lives on a day-to-day level in so many more ways.
Absolutely.
But that's where people are less inclined to pay attention and get involved. And maybe we can change that.
Absolutely,
Yeah, I can't
absolutely.
wait.
It starts here.
Yeah.
It starts here, and I learned it when we were advocating for the ceasefire resolution. It's nationally they're gonna look and listen to what's happening locally. So if we're not making the effort in local politics, they're not gonna pay attention to us nationally. So
Yeah, it's all intertwined.
yeah.
Right.
How are we gonna close in a cool woo, I don't know. How do we close in the most Arab fashion? Because the most Arab fashion is to say that we're it's literally the most Arab fashion is to say that we're closing, but we never close. You know how saying bye.
Because you never can stop saying bye. We started the
we're
conversation.
just gonna keep salam.
It's 30 minutes later, you're at the door, but you're still
bye. Like that's how I finish my bye.
Yes, that's how I talk to my mom all the time.
Yeah, or we
What's
can
wrong
just
with us? Why do we
simply
do this?
I don't know.
hang up. We're just gonna.
So we have
up.
a thing for this called the Irish exit, where you just walk away unannounced.
Oh yes, the Irish goodbye.
Well, we're gonna have a real goodbye. Thank you for watching. We'll see you in our second special episode on the Cleveland civic engagement.
And make sure to check out our Instagram pages.
Oh yes,
Care Ohio Cleveland
and Arab Americans CLE.
And you'll find the flyer for our candidate forum and the registration link in our bios.
Faten.
Bye.
Assalam.
Salams.